Hello, everyone. I am Richard,
And I'm Brandy.
and we are here to talk about the full moon in Aries happening this Thursday.
Hmm.
And wow, there's a lot of dynamic energy going on. But I will share before we get into the chart and talk about those things, I think it's always helpful just to remind us where we've been coming from.
Mm.
On October 2nd, we had a new moon partial solar eclipse in
Hmm.
Libra. It was conjunct Mercury. And whenever we have a new moon in Libra, we're thinking about relationships, harmony, tranquility. Libra is ruled by the planet Venus. And whenever we think of Venus qualities, we're definitely thinking about aesthetics and beauty and harmony. And with that new moon in Libra, certainly associated to all of our relationships,
Hmm.
whether they be romantic or friend, family, or otherwise. The fact that it was a solar eclipse as well really brings some importance to that. And the fact that with eclipses, one of the two luminaries going dark, either the moon or in this case, it was a partial eclipse of the sun. When the lights go out, things can be illuminated. And so eclipse season often has to do with things coming to light that we needed to know about. Not always whether it's easy or hard or otherwise, the idea is that there's something to be learned, something can be gleaned. And so when we're thinking about our relationships, there's an eclipse quality to it. That something is going to come to light that can support us on our journey of finding our own self actualization within a relationship,
Hmm.
which we've done a lot of talking about as of late.
We have
Been a fascinating topic for us.
something to navigate with caution and an open heart.
Yeah, definitely. Maintaining an open heart,
Yeah.
staying regulated. And this will be fun to talk about because I will say before we get into the chart, it's a very stimulating week. A lot of significant aspects, not only from the lunation, but this full moon in Aries is going to be conjunct Chiron. And Chiron has been getting a lot of aspects, particularly this week leading up to the full moon. And having the full moon conjunct Chiron, I think, is just bringing Chiron to the forefront. Whatever we may associate with challenges we've had in relationships, whether
Hmm.
they be all the way back to family of origin challenges
Yeah.
with parents or siblings or whatever, all the way into our current relationships, both romantic or otherwise. Um, I feel like the sense of the theme is that we're getting an opportunity to stand up in our own truth in a way that we have been unable, possibly from a fear, a doubt, or an insecurity from the past.
Hmm.
And this particular lunar cycle seems tailor made to address that. And so while some of the challenging aspects may be triggering and dysregulating, they are signs. They are opportunities that can cause us to stop, hopefully,
Yeah.
take some deep breaths to ground into ourselves, into Mother Earth, and ask ourselves, why am I feeling hurt right now? As nine fully actualized, nine-centered beings, living our truth and inspiration and purpose, the idea is that we can't be hurt. That if we're living our truth, that there's nothing someone else should be able to say that is going to hurt us. All right. Well, that's a big ask.
Yeah.
But I think we can all move a step in that direction this lunar cycle. I mean, it just
Yeah.
really feels like that's what so much of it is about.
Yeah. Beautiful. I mean, I think that it is, um, when I heard you say Aries, it is the thing that gets to be matured. So it's
Hmm.
really great that Chiron gets to visit it with Aries there
Hmm.
because it gets to find its voice,
Hmm.
or it gets an opportunity to potentially find its voice or not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good word to share that we can all, in a sense, look at where we have been immature,
Right.
how we have used maladaptive strategies, in a sense, to stand up with a lack of truth or authenticity.
Right.
And again, feel like this cycle is really offering a portal, being part of an eclipse, to look back and draw from our past. It's a South Node conjunction, the eclipse was. So what's back there that can become illuminated now that can assist us in our new sense of awareness our sense of acceptance. Pluto in
Mhm.
gate 60 is very much connected to this entire storyline and cycle. And how can we accept those experiences, reframe them,
Yeah.
and use the gifts of Chiron? And we'll show in the chart is currently in gate 42, the gate
Mhm.
of growth and the channel of maturation. And so we all are having this offering and invitation to grow and develop in our own sense of evolution as a result of these experiences.
Right. I don't have anything to add. That was
Okay.
beautiful.
Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the chart here. Okay, if we'll start with the body graph just to kind of ground ourselves in the body graph and the astrological wheel on the right. At the time of the full moon in Aries, which takes place at 5:26 a.m. Mountain Time, the sun will be in gate 32, line 5. It's called the gate of continuity. It's part of the channel of transformation. This is a tribal gate that speaks to our ancient instinctual awareness to know what can carry us forward. The gate of continuity is about what do we have that can help transform our tribe, our family, our community, or what doesn't have the strength and integrity, something that needs to be let go. Gate 32 can also have the awareness to say, no, this is not going to support our transformation as a community. This would put the earth in its opposition in gate 42, line 5. And if we look at the astrological wheel, we can see that that moon in gate 42, line 5 is only 2.5 degrees away from the planet Chiron, who's in gate 42, line 1. So both Chiron and the moon at the full moon in gate 42, along with the Earth. The only channel we have activated in the body graph is the channel of acceptance, a design of an organizational being. This is part of our logical circuitry. We have the North Node in gate 17 and Mars traveling through Cancer in gate 62. So we have the North Node and Mars activating the channel of acceptance. So on the one hand, I think the transit may bring us a lot of um, people saying they have an opinion about what's logical and what's not. But Mars is in the sign of Cancer, ruled by the moon. This is the sign of our internal emotional security. And that's not always logical. And
Mhm.
so I think yeah, that channel could be well, it's something we're going to be dealing with for most of it's actually all week long in the transit field. But it's here for this full moon.
I think that channel is supporting the way humans turn experience into language.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's an opportunity for Mars to be precise
Mhm.
in exactly what, I guess in 17 and gate 3, that's not, or in line 3, that's not always going to happen. But for the maturity, the continuity, the thing to be brought forward, the thing that um matures us in this moon Chiron coming together would be to precisely speak what our purpose and our energy is here for and what it is not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice. Now, there are several strong aspects at the time of this full moon. Some of them feel rather supportive, and some of them may feel challenging. Let me just lay those out. Let's kind of look into those. One aspect that's been going on all of last week, all of this week, and next week as well, is very supportive, is that Jupiter traveling in retrograde in the sign of Gemini is in gate 45, line 5 and forming a sextile to that Chiron. So when we think of Jupiter, the planet of expansion, good fortune, and benevolence, a very supportive planet in that sense, is in a very communicative, supportive, energetic frequency with this Chiron and the moon. And so I think that when we think about Jupiter in gate 45, it's in a tribal gate. We're thinking about support. We're thinking about our family, our community. I think the symbolism I get here is that either we may need the support to go through this cathartic experience that this Ironic element is bringing to this lunar cycle, or we may have the opportunity to offer our support. But the fact that that Jupiter is so closely connected to the moon Chiron conjunction at the full moon with tribal circuitry in that sense, I get that's the feeling I get that there's an opportunity for us to be supported or support others in that regard. The other sextile in the wheel is that Venus, at the time of the full moon, is in gate 14, line 6, at the final degree of Scorpio. And Venus is making a sextile to Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn, located in gate 60, line 4. Now, we consider sextiles to be what we call soft aspects. They are generally supportive and communicative. It's not a square, right? It's not a frictional dynamic. It's more of a things are moving along in that sense. But what brings a bit of nuance to this particular sextile is that Venus is at the final degree of Scorpio and Pluto is at the final degree of Capricorn. And we've been tracking Pluto because it's about ready to leave Capricorn for good. It won't be back for another 250 years or so. Um, Pluto will leave Capricorn on November 20th, which is about 5 weeks away. And so during these next 5 weeks, it's Pluto's last chance here to show us the hidden gifts of what we've learned since basically 2008 while it's been in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn's a sign of Saturn. It's the sign of discipline and structure. It's a strategic achievement sign. It's very Saturnian in that sense. It works well with structure and limitations. Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, and transformation. And so since 2008, Pluto has been moving through Capricorn and bringing to light the hidden truths that we needed to see concerning our governments, our institutional structures, and even the structures that we live in a personal level in terms of relationship or family dynamics. And so there's been this message here, I think, from Pluto, particularly in this final degree of Capricorn, is what needs to be let go. What Pluto is kind of like a roto-rooter, right? He shows us the things that we have swept under the carpet, things we have shoved in the back closet or the basement that we never wanted to deal with again. But we are really at this critical anaretic degree where we have to look at it. Pluto is saying, look, this is the truth, and we all need to recognize it. Now, the other part of that aspect is Venus in Scorpio, and Venus in Scorpio is very passionate. There's a lot of energy and zeal. Now, Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, where Venus is. And so here again, we're getting another layer of this. Venus wants to bring out the truth. We're not going to gloss over this. We're not, both of these planets in this sextile are saying there needs to be some form of reconciliation, some form of acceptance, but we've got to see it, accept it, we've got to name it. Venus is not going to let it just go. When Venus is in Scorpio, it's not about just, oh, that doesn't matter. Yes, it matters. Things in Scorpio matter. It is the sign of hidden truths in one sense. So it is a sextile, but boy, it's bringing a pretty heavy energy that's connected to the story of Chiron at the full moon. And of course, going back to the new moon in Libra.
And Mercury there in 28, I think, is something to be said.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Brandy, because Mercury is also in Scorpio and in gate 28, part of that individual circuitry, where Venus is also part of individual circuitry, being in gate 14, and Pluto in gate 60, Uranus in gate 8. So we've got some heavy hitter planets here, all tied up in this individual circuitry, and Mercury being in that gate 28. It's called the gate of the game player, but it is the instinctual awareness to recognize what risks need to be taken in order for us to find our true inner core life purpose. And so he's the planet of communication. And so here again, I think we're getting some symbolism that through communication with within our relationships, what do we need to be talking about? Like not the superficial part. There's nothing superficial about this full moon chart that I can see. We've got some really heavy energies that are, in a sense, they're asking, but then in some sense, they're demanding that we face these things. And if we can, I think if we can follow our personal authority into the symbolism and the signs through our communication, we really can get to the core of what's been holding us back. Makes me think of Pluto in the gate 60 that we're talking about, this gate of limitation in the channel of mutation. Where can we trace fear, doubt, and insecurity down to its root ball to re-examine, reframe, and alchemize what was a limitation that could actually be healed? Mhm.
And if that work doesn't it seems like this is the work that you've been doing, where is it you can graft the old onto the new for maturity and precision of language to your purpose in life, in a way that I think is the out breath of that limitation of 60. It is the pulse now. It is the movement forward. Now what is coming? What feels like play? What if it's constrictive, the anecdote is what feels like play.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
and it's now a perfect opportunity to, I think,
Yeah,
apply
yeah.
that anecdote.
Yeah, well said. I really like the way you frame that. And in fact, after this full moon, when the sun leaves gate 32, where it is in line 5, so just 2 days after the full moon, the sun is going to enter gate 50 in Libra, which will put the Earth in its polarity in gate 3. And so for next week, we're going to get the full channel of mutation. Um, and I think that ties into the message you were sharing there, that there's real transformative frequency available right now.
Right.
Now, one of the other big aspects going on is that Mars traveling through Cancer, we mentioned that Mars is in gate 62, has been over the last couple days forming a T square with the sun in gate 32 and the moon and Chiron in gate 42. Now, squares and oppositions, we call them hard aspects. They denote a dynamic energy, a frictional energy that may pave the way for growth and development. So a T square can often show up in the form of a frictional situation. It could be an altercation or an argument. We have Mars at the apex of this T square, and he is the god of war, and he is in Cancer. Now, Mars in Cancer is in his fall. It's not his favorite sign, but what we can say about it is that he is has the energy to protect that emotional security, uh, for good or bad. This is where we can get into the idea of, if we meet altercations this week, for one, they have a high degree of probability of turning very negative very quickly. T squares are just that. It's energy that's coming together and something's got to give. And so Mars is having this energy in Cancer saying, I need to protect myself. Um, which used in the right way can be very supportive. I mean, that's not a bad thing in and of itself, but it's also in this sort of triggering aspect to both the sun and the moon and Chiron. And so it feels in that sense, Mars is a bit of a triggering element right now concerning emotional wounds. That they're sensitive right now. They're exposed in that sense. And to me, that's what the transit is saying. So, on the one hand, we have a little bit of a cautionary tale to be aware that this is part of the frequency of the whole week. These aspects, I talked about this in my weekly transit report. These are not 1 day aspects, they're definitely part of the whole theme of the week. To be aware of that, to recognize that in important conversations with our loved ones, there is going to be an extra sensitivity here that could lead to a difficult altercation. But I think the flip side of that is that with awareness and recognition, we can stop, we can ground ourselves, and we can ask ourselves, what am I learning about myself right now? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel threatened? Why do I feel the need to defend myself? And I think if that's the zone we're in, if this is relating to anyone in their relationships, in that sense, it's an incredible opportunity because it is a T square. There's real energy for movement and specifically gate 42 growth, development, and evolution.
Beautiful. So if we talked about a T square being instead of the keynote phrase, something's got to give, or maybe keeping it as something's got to give and making it not making it feel like something that is good thing in terms of Chiron and its maturity and the moon and the sun. Those are all the aspects of this, right? Did
Mm-hmm.
I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what gets to give is whatever when I think about what's got to give, I think about membranes, right? The cell membranes. The one that is the healthiest for the whole entire thing is the thing that ends up coming together with the other one, making itself conjoining in some
Mm-hmm.
kind of way, or it dies off. And so I think of like, when two cells come together, how can I emulate that in a T square? How can I take do like, is it Bruce Lee and use the energy to
Mm.
move into something else that is more healthy for all of us?
Mm-hmm. Wow. I really like that. I really like that. And when you say health too, and we look at that splenic awareness center on the left, and those three activations we have there at the
Mhm.
time of the full moon and the
Right,
time of this T square that you're describing, um, gate 32, where the sun is, that there is an opportunity to upgrade our health.
right.
And I also, because this was an eclipse new moon cycle that we're in, because the sun is in gate 32 at the time of this full moon, and because of the moon and Chiron in gate 42, I get the sense that there's a opportunity for not only collective healing, but generational healing, right?
Mhm.
I mean, because this is a bit tricky dynamic, because it's affecting us at such a deep inner core level, that the healing we can do for ourselves is greater than that. It has the potential to end a lineage of pain and suffering and wounding, and in support others in our current life with this higher frequency of healing.
Yeah, beautiful.
And we mentioned Mercury over there in Scorpio, and it also has an interesting aspect to that Mars. It's the purple line. It's called a septile. And in astrology, a septile aspect, the one word keynote is mystical. It denotes something that like comes in from out there, wherever out there is, right? Something, yeah, mystical. And so with Mercury in gate 28, um, in a septile to that Mars, which we've been talking about, that there, I think through this cathartic process of engaging in the healing process, there is something mystical about it, something that will lead to support our gate 28.
And what mystical means, I think, in this sense, is just actually being who you are. We call that mystical because it's
Yeah.
so hard for us to all access, but that's about actually letting the energy that inhabits your body fulfill its purpose.
Hmm.
Um, and with 62 in Mercury, it's, I think about like you said, naming it. Even though we've all had it on the inside, that, okay, this is where my life force is to be channeled to. That's 28. That is the risk or the struggle that is appropriate, which is not a struggle because that's what my life force is designed to do.
Hmm.
Kind of being able to say that, being able to name it out loud for the other
Hmm.
is the healing,
Hmm.
is the 42.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. And definitely a lot of supportive frequency for
Mhm.
that process.
But being able to first prune with your intuition in that 32, which of the which of the old trunks do I graft this new root to?
Hmm.
Because it's not all going to be viable.
Hmm.
Everybody in your life is not going to continue to be viable when you be the fullest light of the expression of your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you're saying that, I'm being drawn to all of the individual circuitry gates in the center column. So we've talked about Pluto in the gate 60, Venus in gate 14, and Uranus in gate 8. That part of this new mutation going on through this process, it's connected to our own sense of creativity. And I think that to me, creativity is the kryptonite to fear, doubt, and insecurity. So, however, this process, if it relates to anyone in terms of this chironic healing journey of growth and development, it can be supportive to focus on creative activities, things that inspire right now. As we move through this transformative process, where is it going? What is our voice? What is my creative voice of expression that I want to contribute as part of my personal inspiration?
Mhm. And does it feel playful? I think that we don't, there's a lot of three going on in this full moon chart. A lot of third lines is what I mean by
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
And so to see all of that, it means trial and error, as most people say, but it doesn't have to mean error and trial. It could mean experimentation and play,
Yeah.
depending on how you perceive it. And so I think that that can be an invitation too.
Yeah, I really like that, pointing out the line three, particularly we've got the nodes there as well in the line three. And the idea that it's line three is very mutative, right? It that frequency of a line three is about the new, about the play, making it playful. We're trying a new way and realize that it's not going to look like everybody else. Right. It's
Right.
the idea is that it's something new, it's something mutative. And so it's not like we can just look to a person or a book and say, well, it's got to happen this way. It's your way.
Yeah. And there's 62 in the third line, 63 in the third line, and 8 in the third line. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of that ability to express ourselves through play into our own truth with precision, if I'm using the
Mhm.
notes for those words.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good.
All right.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for listening, and we wish you all a beautiful full moon
Mm-hmm.
filled with inner security, emotional tranquility, and
Or deep, dark depths of healing greatness.
whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, I do always appreciate that there is opportunity here. Whenever it's kind of like the the dark before the sunrise, analogy. It's like even though times could feel really heavy, really thick and dense and difficult, that also means there's great opportunity for this growth. And
Yeah.
so I think that's part of my intention for this.
Yeah. And one of my mantras in these interesting cycles of my life has been now is not always.
Mhm.
And so to stay present, stay right here, right now, and to remember that now is not always.
Yeah, beautiful. We wish you all presence on
Yeah.
this full moon.
Thanks for being here.